learn of the initiative of those writers who decided to do something about the world in which we live, to replace the sounds of war with the sound of a festival, even for a short while, to switch off, even for a moment, the noise of violence and death, and bring back the voices of literature and of peaceful conversation.
And turning in the wide Niger, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. May anarchies lose upon the world.
For me, there are three reasons for becoming a writer. The first is that you have an overpowering urge to tell a story. The second, that you have information of a unique story waiting to come out. And third, which you learn in the process of becoming, is that you consider the whole project worth the considerable trouble. I have sometimes called it terms of imprisonment. You will have to endure to bring it to fruition.
Albert Chinua Achebe was born in the Igbo village of Nnobi on November 16, 1930. Achebe's parents, Isaiah Okafor Achebe and Janet Ananechi Iluebulem, were converts to the Protestant Church Mission Society (CMS) in Nigeria. The elder Achebe stopped practicing the religion of his ancestors, but he respected its traditions and sometimes incorporated elements of its rituals into his Christian practice. The elder Achebe was a catechist and a teacher. Chinua's unabbreviated name, Chinua Lumogu, "May God fight on my behalf," was a prayer for divine protection and stability.
There is a proverb in your tradition which says, wherever something stands, something else will stand beside it. Well, how do you interpret that?
It means that there is no one way to anything. The people who made that proverb, the Igbo people, are very insistent on this, that there is no absolute anything. Even good things, they are against excess. Their world is a world of duality. It is good to be brave, they say, but also remember that the coward survives the brave man.
The Achebe family had 5 other surviving children named in a similar fusion of traditional words relating to their new religion: Frank Okwofu, John Chukwemeka Ifeanyi Chukwu, Zenobia Uzoma, Augustine Nduka, and Grace Nwaneka. When the last daughter Grace was born, the family moved to Isaiah Achebe's ancestral village of Ikenga in Ogidi, in what is now the Nigerian state of Anambra. A tarred road has long been built in Ikenga, and the Achebe home has been built and rebuilt to reflect modern standards. Achebe had once been the chairman of Ogidi Town Union. Chinua's mother and sister Zenobia Uzoma told him many stories as a child, which he repeatedly requested. His education was furthered by the colleges his father hung on the walls of their home, as well as almanacs and numerous books, including a prose adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream written around 1590 and an Igbo version of The Pilgrim's Progress 1678. Chinua also eagerly anticipated traditional village events like the frequent masquerade ceremonies, which he recreated later in his novels and stories. Chinua began his formal education at Anglican Church at Akpakugo, Ogidi, learning the 4 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, and religion. In 1936, Achebe entered St. Philip's Central School. Despite his protests, he spent a week in the religious class for young children, but was quickly moved to a higher class when the school's chaplain took note of his intelligence. At the age of 12, Achebe moved away from his family to the village of Nekede, 4 kilometers from Owerri. He enrolled as a student at the Central School, where his older brother, John, taught. In Nekede, Achebe gained an appreciation for Mbari, a traditional art from which seeks to invoke the god's protection through symbolic sacrifices in the form of sculpture and collage. When the time came to change to secondary school in 1944, Achebe sat entrance examinations for and was accepted at both the prestigious Dennis Memorial Grammar School in Onitsha and the even more prestigious Government College in Umuahia. There, Achebe started to explore the school's wonderful library. There he discovered Booker T. Washington's Up from Slavery, 1901, the autobiography of an American former slave. Achebe found it sad, but it showed him another dimension of reality. He also read classic novels such as Gulliver's Travels, 1726, David Copperfield, 1850, and Treasure Island, 1883, together with the tales of colonial daring-do such as H. Rider Haggard's Alan Quatermain, 1887, and John Beauchamp's Prester John, 1910. Achebe later recalled that as a reader, he took sides with the white characters against the savages and even developed a dislike for Africans. The white man was good and reasonable and intelligent and courageous. The savages arrayed against him were sinister and stupid or, at the most, cunning. I hated their gods. In 1948, a preparation for independence, Nigeria's first university opened, known as University College, now the University of Ibadan. It was an associate college of the University of London. Achebe obtained such high marks in the entrance examination that he was admitted as a major scholar in the university's first intake and given a bursary to study medicine. After a year of grueling work, however, he decided science was not for him and he changed to English, history, and theology. Because he switched his field, however, he lost his scholarship and had to pay tuition fees. He received a government bursary and his family also donated money. His older brother Augustine even gave up money for a trip home from his job as a civil servant so Chinua could continue his studies. From its inception, the university had a strong English faculty, and it includes many famous writers amongst its alumni. These include Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, novelist Elechi Amadi, poet and playwright John Pepper Clark, and poet Christopher Okibo. In 1950, Achebe wrote a piece for the University Herald entitled Polar Undergraduate, his debut as an author. It used irony and humor to celebrate the intellectual vigor of his classmates. He followed this with other essays and letters about philosophy and freedom in academia, some of which were published in another campus magazine, The Borg. He served as the Herald's editor during the 1951 to 1952 school year. While at the university, Achebe wrote his first short story, In the Village Church, which combines details of life in rural Nigeria with Christian institutions and icons, a style which appears in many of his later works. At the university, Achebe rejected his British name, Albert, so named after Prince Albert, husband of Queen Victoria. After the final examinations at Ibadan in 1953, Achebe was awarded a second-class degree. Rattled by not receiving the highest result possible, he was uncertain how to proceed after graduation. He returned to his hometown of Ogidi to search through his options. While he meditated on his possible career paths, Achebe was visited by a friend from the university, who convinced him to apply for an English teaching position at the Merchants of Light School at Oba. It was a ramshackle institution with a crumbling infrastructure and a mega library. The school was built on what the residents called Bad Bush, a section of land thought to be tainted by unfriendly spirits. Later in Things Fall Apart, Achebe describes a similar area called the Evil Forest, where the Christian missionaries are given a place to build their church. As a teacher, he urged his students to read extensively and be original in their work. The students did not have access to the newspapers he had read as a student, so Achebe made his own available in the classroom. He taught in Oba for 4 months, but when an opportunity arose in 1954 to work for the Nigerian Broadcasting Service, NBS, he left the school and moved to Lagos. The NBS, a radio network started in 1933 by the colonial government, assigned Achebe to the talks department. While in Lagos, Achebe started work on a novel. This was challenging, since very little African fiction had been written in English. Although Amos Tutuola's Palm Wine Drinkard, 1952, and Cyprian Ekwensi's People of the City, 1954, were notable exceptions. While appreciating Ekwensi's work, Achebe worked hard to develop his own style, even as he pioneered the creation of the Nigerian novel itself.
Were you born a writer?
Yes, I think so. I think so because I don't remember any day that anybody said to me, you go and start writing or go and learn about writing. It was there, and I don't remember ever being offended because I was reading a story or I was hearing a story.
In 1956, Achebe was selected for training in London at a staff school run by the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC. His first trip outside Nigeria was an opportunity to advise his technical production skills and to solicit feedback on his novel, which was later split into 2 books. In London, he met a novelist named Gilbert Phelps, to whom he offered the manuscript. Phelps responded with great enthusiasm, asking Achebe if he could show it to his editor and publishers. Achebe declined, insisting that it needed more work. Back in Nigeria, Achebe set to work revising and editing his novel, now titled Things Fall Apart, after a line in the poem The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. He cut away the second and third sections of the book, leaving only the story of a yam farmer named Okonkwo. He added sections, improved various chapters, and restructured the prose. By 1957, he has sculpted it to his liking and took advantage of an advertisement offering a typing service. He sent his only copy of his handwritten manuscript, along with the £22 fee, to the London company. After he waited several months without receiving any communication from the typing service, Achebe began to worry. His boss at the NBS, Angela Beatty, was going to London for her annual leave. He asked her to visit the company. She did, and angrily demanded to know why it was lying ignored in the corner of the office. The company quickly sent a typed copy to Achebe. Beatty's intervention was crucial for his ability to continue as a writer. Had the novel been lost, he later said, I would have been so discouraged that I would probably have given up altogether. In 1958, Achebe sent his novel to the agent recommended by Gilbert Phelps in London. It was sent to several publishing houses. Some rejected it immediately, claiming that fiction from African writers had no market potential. Finally, it reached the office of Henneman, where executives hesitated until an educational advisor, Donald McRae, just back in England after a trip through West Africa, read the book and forced the company's hand with his succinct report. This is the best novel I have read since the war. Henneman published 2,000 hardcover copies of Things Fall Apart on 17 June 1958. According to Alan Hill, employed by the publisher at the time, the company did not touch a word of it in preparation for release. The book was received well by the British press and received positive reviews from critic Walter Allen and novelist Angus Wilson. 3 days after publication, the Times Literary Supplement wrote that the book genuinely succeeds in presenting tribal life from the inside. The Observer called it an excellent novel, and the literary magazine Time and Tide said that Mr. Achebe's style is a model for aspirants. Initial reception in Nigeria was mixed. When Hill tried to promote the book in West Africa, he was met with skepticism and ridicule. The faculty at the University of Ibadan was amused at the thought of a worthwhile novel being written by an alumnus. Others were more supportive. One review in the magazine Black Orpheus said, "The book as a whole creates for the reader such a vivid picture of Igbo life that the plot and characters are little more than symbols representing a way of life lost irrevocably within living memory." In the book, Okonkwo struggles with the legacy of his father, a shiftless debtor fond of playing the flute, as well as the complications and contradictions that arise when white missionaries arrive in his village of Omofia, exploring the terrain of cultural conflict, particularly the encounter between Igbo tradition and Christian doctrine. Achebe returns to the themes of his earlier stories, which grew from his own background.